Namaskar. Well, the Health Ministry has stated that two states, that's Maharashtra and Punjab, they are a matter of concern as they are responsible for disproportionately large number of new COVID cases. Maharashtra reported more than 28,000 cases in the last 24 hours, and Punjab is reporting a large number of cases compared to the size of its population. Also, a new double mutant variant of the coronavirus has been identified in India. However, the Health Ministry says that variants of concern and the new double mutant variant that have been found in India, their numbers are not sufficient enough to explain the rapid increase in cases. So the second wave of COVID is going to be in focus tonight, as well as the Prime Minister's forthcoming visit to Bangladesh. So let's begin with the headlines. My name is Mark Lynn. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to make a historic foreign trip, the first since the COVID pandemic. He'll be doing so to Bangladesh on Friday and Saturday. The visit marks 50 years of diplomatic relations between India and Bangladesh. It marks the conclusion of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's birth centenary, and both countries are likely to sign several agreements. Amid increasing cases of coronavirus, the Health Ministry makes it clear that increasing cases cannot be linked to the new variant of the virus as yet. No need to panic, no shortage of vaccines, appeals to the private sector to play a greater role in vaccinations. The rising number of cases in Maharashtra and Punjab are a matter of concern. Restrictions on festivals like Holi in many states. The EU to discuss toughening of vaccine export restrictions to give Brussels more power to block shipments of vaccines. Move to potentially allow the Commission of block shipments to the UK. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says that Britain would not dream of imposing any blockades on COVID-19 vaccines. Despite leading, Netanyahu's Likud party is still short of a majority as votes are still being counted in the Israeli polls. Netanyahu predicts, however, a huge win, even as exit polls predict no clear winner. In Maharashtra, the BJP delegation led by former Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis meets the Governor Bhagat Singh Koshyari. They ask him to seek a report from the Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray on Parambir Singh's allegations. They also question the silence of the Congress party. The Thane court has ordered the Maharashtra ATS to transfer the Mansukh Hiran murder case to the NIA. Campaigning heats up in Bengal, in West Bengal. The Prime Minister rallies in Khanti as well as in Midnapur and targets the Mamata Banerjee government, saying voices of rejection for her are coming in from across West Bengal. Promises clean government of the BJP is voted to power. Mamata Banerjee also holds rallies in different parts of the state, highlighting her government's achievements. Amit Shah takes out a roadshow in Kerala and targets the left government for alleged corruption. Senior party leader Prakash Javadekar releases the NDA's manifesto for Kerala. Landless among the scheduled castes and scheduled tribe families will be given free titles. Legislations also to secure Sabrimala for the faithful and to stop love jihad. A Delhi court sends a summons to former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram and his son Karthi and 7 companies in the INX media case. Takes cognizance of the ED's charge sheet. Those summoned to be presented in court on April 7. Indian shooters continue their golden run in the ongoing ISSF Shooting World Cup in Delhi. India tops the medal table. The Indian team wins 4 more medals, including 2 gold medals. So, the Prime Minister will be visiting Bangladesh, as we know, on Friday and Saturday. And let's put this meeting into context. That's going to be our top focus tonight. In focus is this. 50 years, a golden age of Indo-Bangla ties, and joining us is former ambassador, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Ambassador Veena Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, thanks for being with us. So just put this into context, you know, it's a Jubilee year. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also accords great importance to Jubilees. We already have started the countdown to 75 years of India's independence, 75 weeks running up to it. So 50 years of Bangladesh ties, Indo-Bangladesh ties, 50 years of Bangladesh as a nation. How important is this visit?
Well, it is a very important visit. It is, I would say, a celebratory visit.
Yes.
Because it is actually marking three very distinct historic events. And India and Bangladesh have been partners all through these 50 years. It is the golden jubilee of Bangladesh's independence. It is the golden jubilee of Bangladesh-India diplomatic relations. And also it is the centenary of the father of the nation of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And 50 years ago, Bangladesh and India were shoulder to shoulder fighting the genocidal attack from Pakistan. And today, 50 years later, we are together, we are still shoulder to shoulder. We have excellent relations with Bangladesh. So the important thing is that A, these three events are happening, and B, that India and Bangladesh are observing them together. This is a huge year-long celebratory, joint celebratory occasions have been held for this, which is very significant because, you don't often see that two countries are marking these events together. For example, during Prime Minister's visit to Bangladesh, number one, he is the chief guest, the guest of honor at the 50th anniversary celebrations on the 26th of March. 26th of March marks the Independence Day of Bangladesh. And so on this day, our Prime Minister will be the chief guest. And one of the exhibitions that he's launching, again, a joint exhibition, is Bangabandhu Bapu Digital Exhibition, where the father of the nation of India, Mahatma Gandhi, and the father of the nation of Bangladesh. Sorry?
No, go ahead, madam. Yeah, go ahead. I didn't interrupt you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this is a very significant exhibition where the two iconic figures of the 20th century, Bangabandhu and Bapu, are being shown together. And it symbolizes the great friendship between India and Bangladesh. As you know that we've been having a lot of these high-level meetings. Just 3 months ago, in December 2020, there was a virtual summit between Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and Prime Minister Modi. And it was a very significant, substantive summit where a number of MOUs were signed, a number of decisions were reviewed, a number of decisions were taken. So this shows that the relationship is growing and developing into, on its own steam. A number of the projects which have $8 billion of credit line to Bangladesh, the projects are being implemented. And you'll see that as and when they are implemented, the connectivity, the infrastructure development between India and Bangladesh is growing. One of the projects to be announced during Prime Minister's visit is the train line between Dhaka and New Jalpaiguri, which is near Siliguri in West Bengal. And this again is a very significant connectivity measure. These train links, road links, waterway links were torn asunder between India and Bangladesh in 1965, when the then Pakistan government did it after the 1965 war. And now, more than 50 years later, we are building up these links together one by one. Now, the significant part about building up these links is, as has been highlighted very recently in a World Bank report, these connectivity and infrastructure development projects have the potential to contribute close to 17% or more than 17% of Bangladesh's GDP and close to 8% of India's GDP. So you can imagine how significant these decisions are, this working together with Bangladesh is for the economic growth, for the prosperity.
So at the end of the day, madam, it's going to be, Ambassador Sikri, the big push is towards improving trade relations, economic relations. Bangladesh can have access to a huge Indian market. The connectivity issues to India's northeast would also be sorted out to a large extent, and from there perhaps connectivity to the Southeast Asian markets as well. What is the potential for trade for Bangladesh in the future?
All the projects that we are working on, and yes, as you say, trade and economic growth is very important. All these projects are worked out on the basis of mutual benefit. If you take the area of trade that you mentioned, this is an area which has enormous potential, where the potential has not yet been fully utilized. Yes, Bangladesh has always been concerned that their exports to India are not as much as India's export to Bangladesh. Now, we've been working on that, and Bangladesh exports
Ambassador Sikri, I'll ask you to stay with us for a little while. You will run a little, a curtain raiser kind of a story which will put this visit into perspective for us, and then we'll come right back to you, Madam. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be making his first foreign visit since the COVID pandemic, as we said, and this visit is to neighboring Bangladesh, and it's taking place on Friday and Saturday. It commemorates 50 years of diplomatic relations between India and Bangladesh. It marks the conclusion of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's birth centenary, and both countries are likely to sign several agreements. Let's look at this report.
Dhaka will be drenched in the colors of friendship between India and Bangladesh on 26th March and 27th March when Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits the country.
2021 is a historic year for Bangladesh. One, it marks the Golden Jubilee, the 50th anniversary of Bangladesh's independence. Two, Bangladesh is celebrating the centenary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of the nation. And last but not the least, the year marks the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Bangladesh and India.
The visit will be his first to a foreign country amid the pandemic.
Our 50th anniversary Golden Jubilee celebration is in many ways a joint celebration of what happened in 1971, in which India's role is recognized by all of us. And his coming will make this occasion, celebration, give it a very special dimension and a height that we could only hope for. This visit is also very important. This is the first time that any head of government and especially head of Indian government is actually going to the mausoleum of Bangabandhu in his home village in Tungipara. That is a symbolic gesture that has touched the heart of every Bangladeshi.
Prime Minister will attend the National Day program of Bangladesh as the chief guest on 26th of March.
Bangladesh is celebrating the 50th anniversary of its liberation war. India had lent its full support to this noble cause in which Indian soldiers also sacrificed their lives. Both countries are commemorating 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties this year. India, as you're aware, was one of the first countries to recognize Bangladesh in 1971, and 6th of December 1971 to be precise. This is also the year of commemoration of the 100th birth anniversary of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of the Bangladesh nation, being celebrated throughout Bangladesh as Mujib Borsho.
In addition to bilateral talks scheduled with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, a meeting with Bangladesh's President Mohammad Abdul Hamid, along with Bangladesh's Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Abdul Momin, is also part of Prime Minister's two-day visit to Bangladesh. A number of agreements will be signed between the two countries during PM's visit, including pacts in the field of trade, cultural cooperation, health, railways, and cooperation in new areas. Relations between the two countries have been excellent in recent times, and Prime Minister's visit is expected to boost further cooperation between the two nations.
Our relationship with Bangladesh has attained historic heights in strong political and people-to-people ties. This has facilitated a partnership marked by conversations and discussions in candor, friendship, and comfort. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, our two countries have made remarkable progress in all areas, fully justifying this era being referred to as a Shonali Adhyay or a golden era in our relationship. Prime Minister Modi is looking forward to his visit and interacting with the leadership of and people of Bangladesh.
In October 2019, Sheikh Hasina visited India. 3 key projects, including a project to import bulk LPG from Bangladesh, were inaugurated via video link, and several agreements were also linked. Bureau Report, DD India.
So let's return to our discussion. We are discussing 50 years, a golden age of Indo-Bangla ties, and we are joined by Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, and we're also joined by our correspondent in Dhaka, Mr. Rajesh Jha. Thank you, Mr. Jha, also for joining us. Mr. Jha, let me come to you. The first, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the symbolism about this visit. Of course, being a Jubilee year, it's very symbolic. But what are the substantive issues that are likely to be discussed?
Well, Lynn, Foreign Minister of Bangladesh has said in the past that this visit of the Prime Minister is actually a matter of honor and pride for Bangladesh, that he's coming for the celebration. But today, during a press meet, the Bangladesh side said that connectivity would be an important issue on which both sides will discuss. There has been no official announcement about what exactly would be discussed and the MOUs and other agreements that would be signed. But the focus of this visit has been on the shared common history of both the countries, the sacrifice that India made for Bangladesh, and the heritage as a friendship that we carry for the last 50 years. So there are many other things which are likely to be taken up. It is said that the passenger train from Chilahati to on the Chilahati-Haldibari route that connects Dhaka to New Jalpaiguri is one of the things which is likely to be done. The another thing is that road from Mujibnagar in Meherpur to Kolkata via Nadia in India,
Yes.
West Bengal. There are things about likelihood of a couple of border hearts would be inaugurated.
Okay.
Then you have this Bangabandhu Bapu digital exhibition, and Rabindranath Tagore's Kuchibari residence, the historic place that is also to be renovated.
Yes.
These are some of the things that are in the discussion, but how exactly and what exactly would happen will be known only after a few days. But the focus of the visit of the Prime Minister is on the commemoration and celebration of the joint celebration of the history and on this occasion. That is what has come out till now.
Ambassador Sikri, let's try and understand also this comes, at a time when the COVID pandemic is showing a second wave, and health is also one of the issues. There's likely to be a pact signed in health. What sort of cooperation, how would you place the cooperation in the health sector between India and Bangladesh?
This has been one of the great success stories of the cooperation between India and Bangladesh. For the last 1 year during the COVID pandemic, India has extended every assistance to Bangladesh, beginning with PPEs and masks and hydroxychloroquine and every aspect, training of doctors. We did training for them in Bengali language so that, in how to handle pandemics, how to look at what to look at. So this has been a tremendously well appreciated aspect of our cooperation. And now that the vaccines are available, India has given a gift as a grant to Bangladesh, about 2 million doses, 20 lakh doses, in addition to what Bangladesh has been able to secure through commercial agreements with Serum Institute of India. And this too has been greatly appreciated by Bangladesh. And this cooperation in the health sector is going to continue. We're going to continue with areas like joint development of vaccines, joint research, joint aspects of how we identify possible future pandemics and how we work on them. It's part of the huge natural disaster management cooperation between India and Bangladesh. So this is going to indeed be a very important aspect. I'm sure perhaps even a MOU will be signed on future health cooperation between India and Bangladesh.
Indeed. Mr. Jha, let's talk a little bit about the connectivity issue because, there is railways, there is also, roads. How would you look at cooperation in these as well as new areas based on the connectivity issues? Because connectivity, you said, was key to this relationship. And if connectivity issues are sorted out, where does this relationship go? I mean, it's already, we're talking about this being the golden age.
Well, Lynn, if you look at the connectivity thing, a few weeks back when External Affairs Minister visited Bangladesh, he said that connectivity is going to be the key sector between India and Bangladesh so far as the cooperation between them is concerned. And that is indeed true. Bangladesh has also been trying to emerge as a connectivity hub for countries in South Asia to Southeast Asia. And it has been trying to develop that connectivity link with India. If you look at it, the transshipment of goods from Chattogram Airport to Kolkata has been permitted. Several rail lines, India and Bangladesh had 6 rail lines operational in 1965. Five of them have been operationalized. and the water route, the connectivity through the rivers is also becoming very important. Recently, they have added 2 more protocol routes, and there are some movement of goods from Bangladesh to India on those routes. They are emerging as very significant this thing. There is also a talk about Bangladesh being interested in the India-Myanmar, Thailand trilateral corridor. There is a kind of alignment of interest between India and Bangladesh so far as connectivity is concerned. Bangladesh wants to emerge as a hub of connectivity that will benefit India. The northeastern states will have a direct connectivity to the seaports, and the connectivity between West Bengal and the northeast India would be enhanced. And it will also mean that India will have a direct connection to the South Asian nation. So I think this is something where the interests are perfectly aligned, and it will show a result in the near future.
A final word from you, Ambassador Sikri, about the rivers. I mean, there are, what, 54 plus rivers, you know, that we share. So in that context, Mr. Jha also talked about the waterways, but you know, what really can be done with regard to this potential, you know, as far as sharing this the water resources of these two countries?
I think that waterways is an important critical part in many, many ways. First of all, it's the most important critical part in connectivity. You know, in Bangladesh, they say that actually already maybe about even 50% of their goods are still transported by waterways. And in the trade between India and Bangladesh, we want to introduce the waterways route as very effective, environmentally friendly, and cost-wise the cheapest. Now, this has already been done. We've already had shipments from Kolkata to Chittagong port, and from there they go on to Bangladesh trucks and go to the northeast. We had recently, just before the summit, we had by the virtual method inauguration of what is called the Maitri Setu, the friendship bridge between India and Bangladesh over the river Feni. Now, river Feni is very significant because it is just 80 kilometers from Chittagong port, and across the river Feni at Sabroom, you're already in Tripura. And from Tripura, you can connect up to the northeast by road and through trucks. And this is exactly that bridge, a small 2-kilometer bridge, which was missing, which is now being inaugurated. So it's a tremendously symbolically important factor that it is mutually beneficial. It allows Bangladesh goods to access the northeast. The Bangladesh goods can reach the northeast, and through northeast can go on to Southeast Asia. The trilateral highway, if Bangladesh is joined, they'll be fully connected to Southeast Asia. And Indian goods can also come by the short route to the northeast.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for in this discussion, so we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Veena Sikri and Rajesh Jha, for joining us and enlightening us about the forthcoming visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Bangladesh. Moving on to our next story. It is 1 year since the lockdown, in fact, today, and the country has come a long way since then in this fight against COVID, and now we are witnessing a second wave. But the government has asked states to strictly enforce COVID protocols, increase the pace of vaccinations so that we can arrest this second wave. Take a look at this report. With COVID cases on the rise, Haryana became the latest state to ban public celebrations of Holi. Others with bans or restrictions in place include Odisha, Gujarat, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and the mega cities of Delhi and Mumbai. Senior citizens and vulnerable groups have been asked to stay away from celebrations in Uttar Pradesh. In guidelines to states effective from April 1 to April 30, the centre has asked them to strictly enforce test, track, treat protocols and ensure COVID-appropriate behaviour by everyone, while scaling up vaccinations to cover all target groups. A new double mutant variant of the coronavirus has been identified in India. However, its numbers are still not a matter of concern.
स्टेट के साथ हमारी सीमलेस कनेक्शन है और किसी भी प्रदेश में, किसी भी जिले में, किसी भी जगह पे जहां वैक्सीन का कार्यक्रम होना है, चाहे प्राइवेट में या सरकारी, वहां तक हमारी सप्लाई एश्योर्ड है, एफिशिएंट है और satisfactory है, ये मैं आपको कहना चाहूँगा. So there is no inadequacy of vaccine supplies. This should.
Genome sequencing studies changes in structure of virus over time. Mutations in ribonucleic acid, RNA of the virus, creates a new variant. There are two types of variants, VOC or variants of concern and VOI, variants of interest. The UK, Brazil and South Africa strains are classified as VOCs, which have been found in 795 cases as of March 24. The Indian variant has been found in Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. VOCs have been identified in 18 states of the country. India recorded 47,262 new cases of coronavirus in the last 24 hours. Maharashtra reported 28,699 cases. Karnataka, Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh also reported increasing numbers. Maharashtra reported more than 100 deaths for the first time since December 16. India has crossed a significant milestone in the fight against the global pandemic. The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has crossed 5 crore. 5,841,286 vaccine doses have been administered through 8,23,046 sessions as of the 24th morning.
Active cases जो 3.14% हैं या 3,68,457 हैं, ये एक्टिव केसेस कहाँ केंद्रित हैं? इसका अर्थ ये हुआ कि देश में जो 10 जिले हैं जहां मैक्सिमम एक्टिव केसेस केंद्रित हैं, उनमें से 9 जिले महाराष्ट्र राज्य के हैं और 1 जिला कर्नाटक राज्य का है.
Meanwhile, the COVID monitoring room in Madhya Pradesh is monitoring home quarantine of patients 24/7. The government has urged states to increase the pace of vaccination, which is critical to break the chain of transmission in the current scenario. All states and union territories have been asked to cover all priority groups in an expeditious manner. Newsnight Desk, DD India. So that brings us to our second In Focus tonight, and In Focus is this: arresting the COVID second wave. Arresting the COVID second wave, and joining us is Shekhar C. Mande, the Secretary, Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, and DG of CSI. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. So is this a case of, we've been there, done that, or, is there something that we have to be careful about with regard to the new variants?
So the strategy remains the same, that we must take the same COVID appropriate behavior cares like what we have been doing again and again. But we must be extra careful because the new mutations are there. And therefore, testing, tracking, quarantine, that strategy is an absolute must. It's not only that the government will actually enforce it, but even people should follow it on their own as much as possible.
But we also have the advantage this time round of the vaccinations, which are now going to be increased in large numbers from the 1st of April as well. So what would you think? I mean, that is going to be one quick way, at least people are hopeful, that we could arrest the rise in cases.
See, what happens is that we have to realize vaccination is a 2-dose vaccine.
Yes.
The antibodies in the body start developing roughly about 9 or 10 days after taking the first shot. They develop to a particular extent, and only after the second shot 10 days later that we actually get significant immunity. So there is a gap of taking the first shot and about 45 days before we can actually get much better immunity. And in fact, now the evidence is gathering that the second dose is given not after 4 weeks, later, but rather after 6 to 8 weeks. So there is a big gap between the first dose and getting proper immunity. So that must be borne in mind, and people must therefore be very conscious of their behaviors, avoiding social gatherings, parties, and so on and so forth.
What would you say about genome sequencing? I mean, do we have to increase the number of, the amount of sequencing that we are doing because of these new variants? There are reports of about over 700 variants which are in the variants of interest category, and only a few, 3 in fact currently, which are variants of concern. But could we see more variants of concern provided we do more sequencing?
So in a sense right now, because the sampling has been random, so the sample represents hopefully the real data on ground, even at a larger scale. But we do indeed need to ramp up sequencing, and the efforts for that are going on very much at this stage, that in many states such as Maharashtra and all, we are hoping to ramp up sequencing very, very soon.
Indeed. So, but with the fact that, the variant, that the virus is mutating, and, I mean, this is obviously a part of the natural course. It's a question of our response has been multi-pronged, but there are analysts who say that we have to start living with the virus. Are we actually living with the virus through this, or is there another? I mean, are we developing herd immunity? Are we trying to develop herd immunity as fast as possible?
Herd immunity is too dangerous a game to think about right now, because we first of all have to vaccinate a substantial a substantial amount of population to get herd immunity. And getting herd immunity through infection is a very, very dangerous game that we should not even think about. We should not even move in that particular direction. So herd immunity is out of question. Whether the virus is becoming endemic is too soon to ask.
Okay.
Many viruses over a longer period of duration become endemic after the pandemic is over, but it's too soon to ask that particular question, and the costs of that are pretty high. So our only strategy right now is to contain the spread as much as possible as what we can do. And if we are able to contain the spread, as we thought that we were actually on the verge of doing that in late December, then we are actually also giving less chance for the virus to mutate. And in the meanwhile, if the vaccination picks up, then that would have been actually much better. But somehow we became a bit lax, we became a bit complacent, and our people started moving, started having parties and so on and so forth.
True.
And that's what actually has led to today's situation.
But there are, I mean, we aren't too worried about the mutant strains, are we? Because the fact is that these are not as dangerous, at least reports suggest, as you know, when the virus initially came, and we were a little concerned. But now we seem to understand the virus a lot more, and these mutant strains don't seem to be, you know, causing us that much concern.
No, of course, obviously there is a concern about the mutants. There are two kinds of mutants typically. The mutants which spread faster, and the mutants which are more lethal.
The lethal ones, Are these, they are not lethal. None of the variants so far are very lethal, are they?
So in a sense that if you consider wild type virus and the mutant virus, it doesn't appear that these are more lethal than the wild type virus.
Okay.
But at times what happens is that viruses such as MERS-CoV, which is a cousin of this virus, that is extraordinarily lethal. So there are two kinds of things, and the mutant that actually are appearing on the stage right now, what we call as B117, or even the mutant that we are looking at in India right now, these appear to probably spread faster. The Indian mutants we can't say for sure, but at least B117 now there is an evidence that is going to spread much faster than the wild type virus.
Okay, we are also joined by Dr. Rana A.K. Singh, Director and Medical Superintendent at Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Medical Sciences, Dr. RML Hospital. We just have time for one more question to you, Dr. Rana. So, I mean, the concern is that, you know, people are going to go out for the vaccine now, but there's some sort of vaccine hesitancy. What would you say to people about the vaccines right now?
You see, when we are talking about the corona, its variant, the mutant variant, one thing is very sure, that infectivity is very high and fatality is low, especially in our country. So that's a great silver lining. Having said that, we have to do every possible thing to prevent the spread of the infection in our population.
Yes.
And we have got two weapons to contain this disease. One, which has been tried and tested over last 1 year, the corona appropriate behavior.
Yes.
I mean, in recent past, we have become complacent on that front.
True.
And probably that could be one of the very strong reason for, I mean, eruption or, you know, increased incidence of corona in at least certain part of our country, say Kerala, say Maharashtra, say Punjab. So we have to continue with that corona appropriate behavior, and at the same time, at the earliest opportunity, as soon as some fits into the criteria of getting the vaccine, one should not hesitate. We have vaccinated more than 5 crore people.
Absolutely, more than 5 crores people should certainly not hesitate. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this discussion. Thank you very much, Dr. Rana and Dr. Mr. Shekhar Mande. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us in this discussion. Moving on then to our next story. Europe continues to grapple with mounting COVID-19 cases, as well as growing resentment of lockdown measures. Amidst all this, the EU is mulling a review of regulations around the rules governing vaccine exports. This revision would potentially allow the Commission to block shipments to the UK. This is a lot less. This, a lot else. We're going to see this in our COVID report, which is coming in from across the world.
The EU-UK spat over supply of vaccines is leading to EU toughening its vaccine export restrictions to give Brussels more power to block shipments. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will later on Wednesday present the proposed revision to the existing rules. The new regulation will go substantially further than the initial export control mechanism imposed by the Commission in January. According to EU officials, the proposed revisions have provisions to cover the concept of reciprocity and proportionality, meaning that shipments could be blocked to countries where vaccines are produced but that don't show reciprocity in exporting doses, as well as to countries that have managed to achieve far higher vaccination rates among their population than the EU. This would potentially allow the Commission to block shipments to the UK. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said that Britain would not dream of imposing any blockades on COVID-19 vaccines, adding that there were encouraging signs that the European Union shared the sentiment. Director General of the World Trade Organization also expressed disappointment over the European Union's export authorization scheme for COVID-19 vaccines.
We're all fighting the same pandemic across the whole of the European continent. That we in this country don't believe in blockades of any kind of vaccines or vaccine material.
So whilst we understand the politics of what they are doing, I've said openly I'm disappointed, particularly in the fact that they extended it from March, and I'm actively talking to them about how we can make sure that this restriction is dealt with.
Staying with Europe after backlash over Easter restrictions in Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel stalled the stricter Easter lockdown announced earlier. In France, according to media reports, the country's culture minister has been hospitalized with COVID-19 amid a rapidly escalating third wave of the pandemic. And Spain has resumed the use of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, ending a week-long suspension over potential side effects. In the US, President Joe Biden marked the Obamacare anniversary on Tuesday. He said that COVID relief checks worth $100 million will be distributed by Wednesday.
Commitment to get Americans $1,400 check per person, including per child. By tomorrow, we will have distributed 100 million of those checks, just since the legislation passed.
In Hong Kong, authorities halted the use of COVID-19 vaccine developed by Pfizer and BioNTech on Wednesday. The move came as a precaution due to defective packaging, triggering scenes of confusion in inoculation centers across the city. Dozens of residents were seen queuing up outside one vaccination center in the morning, only to be told to go home. Bangladesh's capital Dhaka saw massive queues outside hospitals and clinics as residents rushed to get tested for COVID-19 amid a fresh wave of coronavirus infections. In South America, Brazil suffered a record 3,251 COVID-19 deaths on Tuesday as pot-banging protests erupted across the country during an address by President Jair Bolsonaro in which he defended his pandemic response and pledged to ramp up vaccinations. The new record number of daily deaths underlines the scale of Brazil's outbreak. Landmarks across the United Kingdom were illuminated in yellow on Tuesday evening as beacon of hope and support for the bereaved, a year to the day after Britons were first ordered to stay at home under a lockdown to contain the spread of COVID-19. Residents in South London stood outside their homes with burning candles to commemorate those they had lost. More than 126,000 people in Britain have lost their lives to the disease, a toll few people could have imagined in March 2020. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, it's the fourth election in less than 2 years in Israel, and exit polls show Israel's opposition doing better than expected and causing a dip in support for Netanyahu's Likud party. Take a look at this report.
Israel on Tuesday conducted its fourth election in less than 2 years to elect 120 members for the 24th Knesset. However, hours after the polls came to an end, exit polls indicated far-right Israeli leader Naftali Bennett as a kingmaker in the country's fourth election and has vowed to do what is best for Israel. The exit polls also showed Israel's opposition making a better show than expected and a dip in support for Netanyahu's Likud party.
What was will no longer be. With the power you gave me, I will act under only one principle, what is good for Israel.
But the exit polls haven't stopped Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from claiming victory. He thanked Israelis for giving his right-wing Likud party a huge victory.
Because the country needs a stable government, not a government of tatters based on personal rejections and ambitions. A stable government for Israel. This is what the time requires. This is what the challenges we are facing require. And we must not drag the state of Israel to a new election to a fifth election. Establish a stable government now.
Meanwhile, supporters of Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party celebrated as TV exit polls showed the party to be the closest to the halfway mark in Israel's parliament, though Netanyahu was still short of securing a solid parliamentary majority.
It looks good. I think the results of the elections clearly show that there's only one candidate for Prime Minister, and that's Benjamin Netanyahu. The other three candidates have actually collapsed, and I think that now what we need to do is form a coalition.
Polls look good so far, the exit polls, but we know it's very early, and we know that it's a fragile majority, and we hope that in a few hours we'll be happier and more secure with the results. But we're optimistic, it looks good.
Netanyahu is hoping to form a government with his traditional allies. These include a pair of ultra-orthodox parties and a small religious party. This time, much will depend on the performance of a handful of small parties struggling to win the minimum 3.25% of the vote to enter the 120-seat Knesset. While Netanyahu's Likud is expected to emerge as the largest single party, no party has ever won a 61-seat majority on its own. Both he and his rivals must win the support of smaller allied parties to form a majority coalition. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, moving on then to our next story, poll campaigning is gaining momentum in battleground states. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed back-to-back rallies in West Bengal and in Assam. And Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also addressed rallies in West Bengal.
Temperature is soaring in poll-bound 4 states and 1 union territory as star campaigners are addressing back-to-back rallies to woo voters. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday addressed rallies in West Bengal and Assam. His first stop was at Kanti in Midnapur district of West Bengal, where he targeted CM Mamata Banerjee, claiming that the people of Bengal want to change and that the rule of Mamata Banerjee will come to an end after this election.
हर मुख से एक ही आवाज आ रही है, 2 मई दीदी जत्थे, आशोल परिवर्तन अच्छे। जब जरूरत होती है तब तो दीदी दिखती नहीं है, लेकिन जब चुनाव आता है तो कहती है सरकार द्वारे द्वारे, सरकार द्वारे द्वारे।
His second stop was Lakhimpur district of Assam. While addressing the gathering in Bihipuria, he slammed Congress AIUDF alliance. He alleged that Congress has joined hands with those whose aim is to destroy Assam's identity.
आपको याद रखना है, ये कांग्रेस का महाजोत नहीं, ये कांग्रेस का महाझूठ है। कांग्रेस का ऐसा महाझूठ जिसका न विचार है न संस्कार है।
In his third public campaign, PM Modi addressed a rally in Assam's Sipajhar. He said BJP has come with a belief of swift development riding on a double-engine government. He said that BJP's manifesto will bring prosperity for the people of Assam. West Bengal is scheduled to hold the first phase polling on March 27th. The ruling Trinamool Congress leader Mamata Banerjee addressed rallies in Bishnupur, Ondo and Bankura in the state. Roads in Bankura are in bad state. Look how they've been renovated now. We have built 1,000 kilometers of village roads, and slowly all villages will have proper roads. We will make 30 lakh kilometers more for the poor. Congress leader Gaurav Gogoi claimed that this election his party will gain the public mandate in Assam.
Phase 1 is not even over. I'm confident we have crossed the halfway mark. As of now, I'm confident we have crossed 64 seats. And as we go to phase 2 and phase 3, that number will only increase.
Campaigning is in full swing in southern states of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. BJP on Wednesday released a manifesto for the upcoming assembly elections for Kerala, promising legislations for Love Jihad and Sabrimala Temple. Home Minister and BJP leader Amit Shah addressed a public rally in Kanjirapalli's Kottayam.
केरल एक जमाने में
विकास और टूरिज्म के मॉडल के रूप में जाना जाता था, मगर एलडीएफ यूडीएफ की सरकारों ने केरल को भ्रष्टाचार का अड्डा बनाने का काम किया है।
Kerala was waiting for such announcements. Employment for at least one in every family. Terrorism-free Kerala.
In Tamil Nadu, Chief Minister Palaniswamy campaigned for the BJP candidate in Aravakuruchi. DMK Chief M.K. Stalin campaigned in Athur Assembly constituency. In Puducherry, DMK candidate R. Siva campaigned door-to-door. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, the BJP delegation led by the former Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis met the Governor of Maharashtra Bhagat Singh Koshyari, and they asked him to get a report from the Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray on the former Commissioner of Police Parambir Singh's allegations regarding the association between Sachin Waze and the State Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. They also questioned the silence of the Congress on this issue. Well, the Thane court has also ordered the Maharashtra ATS to transfer the Mansukh Hiran murder case to the NIA. Let's look at this report.
Politics in Maharashtra is in turmoil following allegations of extortion against Home Minister Anil Deshmukh levelled in a letter by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh last weekend. A delegation of Bharatiya Janata Party led by former Maharashtra CM Devendra Fadnavis reached Raj Bhavan to meet the state governor Bhagat Singh Koshyari. They informed the governor about the entire incident and said that if the chief minister is silent on this matter, then the constitutional head, that is the governor, should ask the chief minister on the actions being taken in the whole matter.
जिस प्रकार की घटनाएं हो रही है, चाहे पैसे की उगाही की घटना हो या ट्रांसफर्स का रैकेट हो, ये सारी घटनाएं दुखदाई है, आश्चर्यचकित और अचंभित करने वाली.
Amid this, Fadnavis also criticized the Congress party. He said that the party is silent on the extortion racket as it too will get its share. He further said that the Maharashtra government has now become a Mahavasuli government.
इस महावसूली सरकार में कांग्रेस पार्टी का क्या अस्तित्व है हमको तो समझ में नहीं आता, पर यह ध्यान में आता है कि शायद ये जो हफ्ता वसूली हो रही है इसमें बड़ा हिस्सा उनको भी शायद मिल रहा होगा.
Though the Congress party is consistently denying all allegations, the demand for a CBI investigation into the case is rapidly catching fire.
सचिन वाजे को भी सस्पेंडेड अधिकारी को खुद के लेवल पे उन्हें रीइंस्टेट कर दिया और उनको एक एपीआई रैंक के अधिकारी को बड़ा काम देकर उसको उसके हाथ से क्या करते थे, ये सब चीजों की इंक्वायरी उसमें आना चाहिए थी.
स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को कोई भी इंक्वायरी ये सब्जेक्ट में ना देते हुए ये पूरी इंक्वायरी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के हाथ में सौंपी जाए, जिससे दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी होना होगा.
The matter has now reached the Supreme Court as former Commissioner of Police Parambir Singh also filed a petition in the Supreme Court in this case and demanded a CBI investigation. A bench of Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul and Justice Rishikesh Roy said that the allegations being made in the case are very serious. However, the court refused to hear the case. The court said that it would be better that former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh files his petition in the Bombay High Court. The court remarked that the Bombay High Court could hear all the cases that Parambir Singh had asked for in his petition. Parambir Singh termed his transfer a violation of the orders of the Supreme Court before the completion of the 2-year fixed term. On this, the court remarked that in almost all the states, the non-execution of police reforms violates the court order. But only in the case of political crisis does this matter comes up in the court. In his petition, Parambir Singh also sought to cancel his transfer order and further requested to preserve the CCTV footage of Home Minister Anil Deshmukh's house. Later, on behalf of Parambir Singh, a petition was filed in the Bombay High Court demanding a hearing. On the other hand, the Maharashtra ATS investigating the death of Mansukh Hiran has received a setback. A Thane court has ordered the Maharashtra ATS to immediately stop the investigation into the Mansukh Hiran case and instructed to hand over all the documents to the NIA. Meanwhile, the Uddhav cabinet meeting took place on Wednesday amid the continuing political turmoil in the state. It is believed that Anil Deshmukh's case was also discussed in the meeting, that is now raising serious questions on the credibility of the coalition government. With inputs from Shishir Shelar, Bureau Reports, DD India.
The CEO of Prasar Bharati, Shashi Shekhar Vempati, on Wednesday addressed the online press conference titled The Relevance of Peace and Trust in the Modern World. It was arranged jointly by the MFA Turkmenistan and the State Committee of Turkmenistan, or this is for TV and radio, on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of independence, the 25th anniversary of neutrality of Turkmenistan. Let's listen.
India and Turkmenistan share a very strong bond of friendship, and this bond is based on a common foundation of cultural and civilizational links. We fondly recall the state visit of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Ashgabat in 2015, which was a landmark event in the ties between India and Turkmenistan. I also understand that India had co-sponsored the draft resolution for declaring 2021 as the International Year of Peace and Trust, which was introduced by Turkmenistan in the 73rd United Nations General Assembly. So this topic today on the relevance of peace and trust in the modern world is a very important subject.
Now some news from across the country. Here's our national roundup.
The Lok Sabha on Wednesday cleared the National Commission for Allied and Healthcare Professional Bill 2021. The legislation seeks to provide regulation and maintenance of standards of education and services by allied and healthcare professionals. The lower house also cleared a bill which seeks to strengthen provisions relating to protection and adoption of children. The bill proposes to increase the role of district magistrates and additional district magistrates with issues concerning childcare and adoption. The Rajya Sabha witnessed repeated brief adjournments amid opposition uproar over bill on Delhi LG power. Opposition, including AAP, who rules Delhi, had war of words with Treasury bench. In the meantime, Rajya Sabha returned Finance Bill 2021, completing Parliament approval process for budget session 2021-2022. Thane Sessions Court has asked ATS to stop investigation of Mansukh Hiren death case and hand over the case to NIA. NIA has approached the court after ATS was not handing over the case to NIA despite MHA's order in this regard. Mansukh Hiren's body was found in a creek on 5th March, days after he was summoned by the police in connection with the Antilia bomb scare case. Kerala High Court has instructed Kerala government that no coercive action to be taken against Enforcement Director officials by Crime Branch until Tuesday. In its FIR, Crime Branch alleged ED officials coerced Kerala gold smuggling case accused Swapna Suresh to implicate Kerala CM. Two nuns and their two novices were heckled and forced to get off a train in Uttar Pradesh, Jhansi by some miscreants. Union Home Minister Amit Shah, who was addressing a rally in Kerala, assured swift action in Jhansi nuns harassment incident. He said those involved in the case will be brought before the law. A Delhi court has issued summon against ex-Union Minister P. Chidambaram, Karti Chidambaram and others, including several firms in INX media money laundering case. The court has taken cognizance of ED's main charge sheet in the matter. All accused are asked to appear before the court on 7th April 2021. The Supreme Court has said that a complaint sent by Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Y.S. Jagmohan Reddy was dealt with under in-house procedure and the same with due consideration stands dismissed. The complaint was in connection with Amravati illegal land dealing case.
Well, India and Pakistan talks on water rights on the Indus River continued. This is on the second day, on Wednesday. Well, this meeting that began on Tuesday resumed on its second day in New Delhi on Wednesday. The talks represent a thawing in the bilateral ties, which have been frozen since the 2019 suicide bombing in Kashmir. But over the past few weeks, the two governments have made tentative efforts to re-engage and to calm the borders. Well, the river use talks, they follow a rare military agreement also that this month happened, and it is to stop the firing at on the Kashmir border. As we wind up Newsnight, we will leave you with these visuals taken by the FPV drone video of a volcanic eruption in Iceland. Iceland's peninsula, for the first time in hundreds of years, is seeing streams of lava streaming across a small valley. Take a look. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.